What is happening? Happy Monday, everybody. We are ready to roll live and in person. Flying solo today, by the way. Let me see. Anybody in here? Do we have chat? GM. Holy moly. Crazy bounce. I feel like a lot of people were looking for a quick short out of the gate and it just ripped to the upside. A little divergence kind of everywhere. But anyways, welcome everybody. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. If you're new, appreciate you tuning in. Every Monday, what we do here and we're going to do today is we just kind of go over what were the main headlines last week, what do we have to look forward to this week, and kind of just plan out the rest of the week, right? So I think it's a good time of day, good day of the week. As an options trader, I'm not really into trading Mondays a whole lot, to be completely honest. Usually this is the day of the week where options are the most expensive. So if you're into that, you got to be an active breakout. But we got some pretty cool setups, and I think this week's going to turn out pretty good. What's up, Volk? There's a lot of stuff. Before we even get started, what I'd say is I think that a lot of things had a great week last couple weeks. It's not the best week to be a bull, but that said, I think that we're going to start to see a little bit of broadening out. And it may be inside some of those sectors that even like, I know a lot of people were trying to short semis and stuff like that right now, but look, guys, we got a big earnings report coming up this Wednesday. So hey, if you want to be short, I'd still say, hey, look, it's for a good time, not a long time. All-time highs, just not really bearish. That's all I can say. All-time highs are not really bearish, but have we been a little overheated? Maybe on some things. Definite possibility. So with that said, let's get to it. I think so today what I have, let me get this different layout. Today's the first day after this rebalancing, right? So we had a big XLK rebalancing, IWM rebalancing, QQQ, SPY, all of them X date. What that means today, it's done, right? So CrowdStrike, welcome to the S&P 500. Welcome. SMCI, welcome to the Qs. And out of IWM. So we'll see. There's some serious rebalancing going on. Apple last week had a lot of, it was being pushed down a lot because of this XLK rebalancing, and Nvidia had a really strong week ahead of that rebalancing also. And I think that's over now, right? So early trade, what are we seeing? We're seeing a lot of that steam come off, right? So Apple right back to the highs. Or at least rebounded strongly. Nvidia pulling back quite a bit. Those rebalances have happened. A lot of the trade, it was kind of like anticipation of, now buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So the news is here. It's time, and we can kind of move on to the next, right? So we'll see. If they continue, it's just going to be on their own fruition, not because of any crazy catalyst around rebalancing. So happy that that's over. Some of that speculation was a little funky. But I think things will start to base or bottom out here and then find some footing, and we'll be good to go. But that said, let's get into it. So last week, here's a recap really quick. So last week, retail sales, we got retail sales, housing starts, jobless claims, services PMI, and some they say housing sales, housing starts, and then some home sales data. Those were pretty much the big ones. Wasn't a whole lot on deck in terms of the economic calendar. This week, though, it's a little bit different. So this week, we actually have a little bit more on deck. So hopefully we'll have some catalysts moving forward. There's a lot of stuff that's been beaten down. If you guys caught the Rivian stuff, that was, I think, let me see, I haven't checked on her, but what a snipe. Oh yeah. She's looking good. All I can say is that $10, aside from the technical spot, Rivian was worth the shot for me. That's what I can say. There's very few stocks out there that you could look at and say, does this have a possibility of being a 10-bagger in 5-10 years? If they stay alive, there's a whole thesis around that. But yeah, it's a possible, but juice is worth the squeeze. Hey, that's all I can say. Retail sales. So what you'll see on the top part of this slide, in parentheses, was what the market had priced in already, or basically what was consensus. So market does not move on consensus. Market does not move on how far things are off from the prior, but markets move based on how far away things are from consensus. So retail sales coming in pretty flat, up 0.1%, but that's from a negative 0.2% prior. Consensus was at 0.2, so that wasn't really a big market mover. Housing starts, on the other hand, this is kind of interesting here. So prior 4.1, consensus was 0.7. The housing starts, I mean, this was headlines everywhere. Really, really ugly, right? What's up for last? Yeah, really ugly on the housing starts, down 5.5%. So hopefully that's kind of a bottom. What I'll say is that that situation right now is kind of interesting. I think that we've been in a situation in the economy where a lot of housing markets have been they've been struggling in terms of having supply. So there's tight supply everywhere. And if the housing starts to pick up and we start to see some of that in, let's say, home sales or building permits, things like that, some of the home builders themselves might be a bit of a headwinds for like a Toll Brothers or things like that. But for trades like a Home Depot, especially with the long bond or 30-year rates coming down, I think coming down, that could be that could be actually pretty good for them. So keep that one on watch. That's definitely something that I'm watching, this kind of trend right now. It's a nice bounce on Home Depot. We'll see if she can hold it. So that said, global services PMI flash. Why is this important? So we're a services-driven economy. Services are very important all the time. S&P Global Services PMI flash come in 53.7 was consensus priced in, 54.8 prior. We came in at 55.1, so that's actually good news. So that's interesting. Home sales come in pretty flat, but again, not as bad as prior from the home sales perspective. So now we see like this building permits coming in next. As far as the headline front, retail sales barely increase in signs of consumer straying. Goldman Sachs sees jobs at an inflection point. So this job market piece, this labor piece, that's actually really important. So if you listen to the last few FOMC meetings, look, Powell said, there's only one thing that can really kind of move the needle for them, and that's really the labor market, right? So if the labor market shows weakness, this is where bad news is going to be good news for the market. Then that's more of a reason for them to start to cut rates, right? Or think about cutting rates a little bit more. New York Fed Williams says economy is strong. So that's the GDP. We're going to get that also this week. And they need more data to cut rates. So what does that mean? So we talked about this last week. Look, the Fed can't do anything really on 1 or 2 months of data points, right? Like you got Tom Lee out there saying inflation is falling like a rock. He's probably right. He might be right. Fed can't do anything under 3 months of data in a row, right? So that's really what they need to see. Other headlines out there: Apple and Meta discussing an AI partnership. Kind of interesting. That's for the Apple Intelligence piece. So looking at some generative AI partnerships there. And then Target taps into Shopify, adding sellers to its third-party marketplace. So Target and Shopify both been pretty down in the dumps for a while. I'm long Target and Shop actually, but Shop's had a nice run recently, didn't hold this move, but today Target actually did hold the move, and that one's actually looking pretty decent, right? So big pop out of the gate right over its 20-day. I think Target over Shop because Target has not had any kind of a move yet. Nice bottoming formation on the chart. Big breakout today. I like Target for the upside continuation. What's up, Spider? You rock. Shout out to that guy, man. He's a beast. So those are the main headlines that I have. If you guys have anything else, feel free to ask them in the comments. We'll go ahead and cover some of that stuff. Also, any charts that you want to look at, drop those in the comments right now, and we'll take a look. We started out talking about this rotation thing, or really like rebalancing. And what I would say this week is that if your stock had a rough week last week, I think it'll have a better week this week. But if the stock had a really good last couple weeks, I think that is probably something that's going to pull back a little bit. So whether that's inside of specific ETFs like SMH, I'm going to call out a couple tickers, but specifically AMD, right, versus NVIDIA. I think that pairs trade will start to flip a little bit. So we do have, if you don't know, I don't have this on the recap, but last week, the new laptops started to drop. This is a big deal, right? The new laptops started to drop for Microsoft. They're going to drop for Dell. They're going to drop for HP. You guys know my story, my thesis on Best Buy. I think that's a great trade. Still long equity. But Best Buy last week was a really good week, so I think it can kind of have a rest now, right? So does that make sense? So AMD, I think this is a catalyst for AMD. AMD's not a data center play. It's just not, right? And I think the market's kind of wrapping its head around that finally. Maybe one day it'll have a seat at that table, but it's not going to be an NVIDIA. It's not an NVIDIA, right? It doesn't have that seat at the table, not today at least. But what it does have is it has an amazing mobile processor, right? And so as these new mobile products start to come to the market, I think this is a real catalyst for AMD. They're finally dropping. That's definitely one to watch. It's probably time. We had near 150 was kind of like the bottom. It was actually 153 that we hit, something like that. And I think that low is probably in for this season. So we'll see, right? We'll see if she can get her legs under, but that's an example of what I'm talking about. It's not semis as a whole, right? But, AMD will probably be stronger than NVIDIA this week in my mind. But when I said, if you want to be short, that's fine. You could be short for a good time, not a long time. Here's why, right? So this is a seasonal calendar. So this is every bar here is 1 week on SPY, whether it's green or red, over the last 19 years. And thank you, shout out TrendSpider for this. So what does this mean, right? So we're in the 26th week of the year. It's not the greatest week this week, but what are we about to approach? I will tell you guys these 3, 1, 2, 3, next week and the 3 weeks following. Really, it's this 3 week right in here, little blot of time. This is literally the best 3 weeks of the year every year for the entire market. So if you want to be short, that's fine. But no, it's for a good time, not a long time. This trend is not in your favor, right? This is as we get into September lows and then the Santa Claus type rally, which, by the way, I call it Santa Claus. The back half Q4 rally typically starts, October, November, but we'll see. It's an election year. I think that's might get a little choppy over there, but overall it's net positive. But that said, there's not a lot of difference. July 4th weekend is when this really kicks off. That is the best couple weeks for Apple, like bar none. So if you're short, Apple calls off this big jump in premium, which I am. I think you start to cover this week and let that start to fly next week, right? If you're not already letting it fly, right? So I think that things like this are really important to know. Seasonality, right? It's crucial. It's not this week. It's pretty, you got maybe 5 days, right? Like you got 5 days maybe, and you're kind of pushing it. So it's more to me of, okay, it's probably dip buys. I'm more into dip buys than into shorts right now, if that makes sense. So what do we have on deck for this week? So this week, Monday, really not a lot. There's some funky Fed speak going on still. What I'll say to that, I think it's important to understand, is that the Fed speakers are kind of all over the place right now. So if somebody moves a market on a Fed speech, if a Fed speaker moves the market, I will say that right now, I think that will be short-lived, whether it's an upside move or a downside move. I think that intraday will probably be a trading opportunity to reverse itself pretty quickly. So take note to that. If we get a lot of that today, tomorrow, that's important. Consumer confidence, it's not consumer sentiment. That's different. Tomorrow, we really don't have a whole lot going on. Going on. Let me see if we have any auctions. I didn't note the auctions. I'm sorry. So no auction. We don't have auctions this week or what? So tomorrow, okay. So tomorrow we have a 2-year note auction. I take it back. So 2-year note auction is a big deal. So tomorrow, Tuesday, 2-year note auction. That is one for sure. Then Wednesday we have a 5-year note, and then 7-year on Thursday. There's a central bank balance sheet coming out on Thursday. I didn't have this on the calendar. That could be important. And that's it, right? So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we do have some auctions starting tomorrow with the 2-year, right? 2-year, 5-year, 7-year. That's how it's going to come out. Wednesday, we get new home sales. So I think this is one look. If Home Depot can catch its legs somewhere around this 350 level, sub 350, that could be one to possibly look at on some type of news like this, new home sales catalyst, right? That's like the builders, again, dividend is paid, summer is their time. It's a good spot, right? Oil, let me pull up crude. Yeah, oil just ripping right now over all significant simple moving averages. This oil status report is starting to be a market moving event. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch. Yeah, oil one more time out of that, just like it's like a liquidity grab, sub 70 or sub 75. And yeah, just instant rebound. We'll see. It's still in a trading range. So I see room to 85 easy. Anyways, Thursday we get actual data. So Thursday is the day that the real economic data starts to come out. Then that's when we get our final look at this last quarter GDP. And then Friday is the big one. So Friday, PCE comes out. And this, if you don't know, PCE is the most, like, aside from non-farm payrolls, is probably the most important, like, data point that we get from an economic calendar. It is also the Fed's proclaimed favorite inflation gauge indicator. And again, if you're not familiar with inflation, it's all about the velocity of money, and PCE is personal consumption expenditures. So what are people actually spending? Non-farm payrolls is about the jobs, the job situation. If we have more people getting jobs, then they should have more money to spend. That flows into PCE. Then that flows, that's their income basically, and spending. Income, spending, and then consumer inflation and producer inflation, right? The market likes CPI the most, which is the actual inflation number, but that's a combination of income, i.e. non-farm payrolls, and spending, or PCE. So it's like incredibly backwards looking, but it's how the market, it's how the market looks at it. What liquidity grab? I think this is more, I was referring to oil, right? So oil, it's like right here, this sub 75 right here, this big dip, and then instant V out recovery. That's what I was referencing. Liquidity grabs in general, though, I will say that might be more of a thing this week. So it could be a little choppy. I might look at something like a Meta specifically, and I'm not looking at the chart right now. I can pull it up, but Meta. If you see Meta sub 500, I'd be more inclined to, so far, sell $500 puts on Meta right now whenever I see it below 500, because that's been a good spot to go long. But I think it's building a pretty solid base, and you could see some liquidity grabs on Meta to actually bounce her long later on, maybe next week, maybe this week. But that's one, as an aside, that's had not the greatest week last week. And now probably starting to base, still holding its 20-day. So we'll see, right? So does Meta get a bid? That's the kind of thing that we're looking for, that I'll be looking for this week. So on to earnings, right? So this is the quick view of earnings. So of the Dow 30, so far we've had 28 report, 26 of which have actually beat, 2 misses. We're coming up. This is not as good as last quarter. So last quarter was definitely peak earnings in terms of that. And I don't think, we have Nike this week. Sorry. So we have Nike this week, and we have a couple more, but overall it's been a pretty good earnings week or earnings season. I think there are 2. So Nike comes out on Friday or Thursday after the close. FedEx comes out tomorrow after the close. I'm long FedEx, but I'm going to take another trim because it's having a great day in anticipation. And then I will probably hold this through. If there's nothing good built into these transports, man. So FedEx, UPS is the pairs trade on FedEx. If you want to take something, sometimes it moves, sometimes it doesn't. We'll have to see. But that's one where, hey, look, it's a good spot. It's had a nice little bounce. It's finally over its 200-day. But what I'll say is technicals do not matter when it comes to earnings. Those will go straight out the window. But that's definitely, if FedEx catches a bid, and it'll be mostly based on driving their costs down. If they say anything about, revenue up, that's a whole nother story, because that the market's probably expecting that FedEx does a little bit better based on driving costs down. But in terms of actually growth, there's none of that priced in, right? So if there's anything like that, top line growth, then that's going to be unexpected, and that will probably shoot the stock higher. But I feel like it's a better risk reward to upside than downside, but I don't know that it holds because there's not really a giant growth story behind it. Similar to General Mills, there's just not a big growth story there, right? The one that's going to be the market moving event, right? And that's going to be Micron. And Micron reports Wednesday after the close. And so this is what I was saying about the semis. I think that if you get dips to buy on Micron, which I believe we might be getting, maybe a little bit this morning. So it's sitting on its 20-day. I don't think Micron really goes much further down. They have what I'll say is it's about pricing power on Micron. Micron's been historically a commodity play. They're a commodity company. Memory is just commodity, right? Like it's not fancy or anything, but this high bandwidth memory is a big deal in terms of AI, and like the speed required in memory and storage, which this memory is storage. The speed required to feed these AI machines is just massive. So a huge innovation and shortage in supply of high bandwidth memory is giving Micron and others like a Western Digital, which would be the pairs trade, a lot of pricing power, and you're seeing major stock moves from there, right? So the question is, do you think it's overdone? I really don't. I think one of the last targets that came out was about like 170 on the price, on the stock price. I think we'll have to look at it. We'll look at it in the server. But this is one, again, if you see these weird liquidity grabs on Micron, that might be the spot to really build into a position if you're not there. Or Western Ditch, right? WDC is Western Digital. I think both of those, you might not get a breakout, but you might get these weird wicks that will dip down ahead of this report that will instantly get bought up. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm looking for on these guys. Levi's, LEVI, has actually been like one of those weird sleeper stocks. I don't know if you know, this thing is like, it was $12 earlier at the October lows, and now it's 25. So I don't know if there's a growth story there, but the stock looks like it's in a tough spot. So if there's interesting. Oops, sorry, I hate this. Goodness, flipping all over the place. Sorry, guys. And I mean, Walgreens, this thing is toast. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people want to be long Walgreens, but why would you want to be long? I don't know. The pharmacy, you got Hims, you got Teladoc, you got, the whatever prescription, GoodRx, you got Target with the CVS deal, you got Walmart, Costco pharmacies, and in California, you just go directly to the hospital pharmacy. So it's a tough business. They're shutting these things down left and right over where I live. So I don't know. It doesn't look good for Walgreens. This thing looks like it's going to zero. Sorry. And Nike, right? So Nike, there is nothing good built into the Nike story, but I think that the chart looks good for a bounce. We have the Olympics coming. So that's interesting. If you see a dip on Nike and it holds like 93, it's probably decent. It's finally over its 20-day and 50-day. It still has to get up to its 100 or 200-day, which is about $100 per share. But then we'll see where she goes. But she's been kind of like a Lulu, where like finally, catching a ton of competition with On and what have you, and all the other trainers, shoes trainers, that it's been tough for her to catch her feet, but she's stopped going down. It looks like, and the chart is in this massive consolidation. So even if she starts to break out, I think if there's anything real there, it's not going to get away from you. But it's a good spot for sure. But anyways, that's it. So Friday we don't really do a whole lot, and there's not a whole lot of earnings to go, but there is Miss Cleo behind us. So let's go ahead and get over there, and we will take a look, see what she has to say for this week. All right, guys. So this is the reading for the week, right? So the theme card doesn't look good. This is the one where it's like, oh, we're going to war, right? So this is the theme card for the week. And then every day of the week you have underneath. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Interesting how things start to turn Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's around Micron earnings. And I will tell you that earnings report is going to be a massive catalyst for the entire SMH complex. So whatever you want to do, NVIDIA will be a pairs trade. It will be. Western Digital will be a pairs trade. And all your storage companies like Pure Storage, NetApp, those are all going to be pairs trades to Micron. And it's going to be just a massive headwind that's going to be in effect as of Thursday morning, because they report Wednesday night. So again, technically they report Wednesday. So all of this is like maybe profit taking into. It's just going to be such a market moving event. I can't even. It's just crazy. And then we have data, right? So really PCE coming out on Friday. That's going to be the one. What I didn't go through, by the way, was PC. I'm just going to do this really quick. If we do get, and this is on Friday, PC, so consensus is 0.1, forecast, and the prior is 0.2. This is where we are on that right here. We're going to lose a 0.3, right? And for the one that you want to look at is going to be this year-over-year price index. So we're sitting at 2.7, and we're going to lose like a really big reading, honestly. So if the month-over-month comes in at, let's say, 0 or even a negative number, stocks will rip face like that. This is going to be the big pivot of the week, regardless of what Miss Cleo says. It's going to be Friday. It's going to be Thursday, Wednesday night into Thursday from Micron. And then it's going to be Friday's PCE. And again, it's this number right here, month over month, if core or headline, right? If this comes in at like a 0 or negative number on the spending, we fly. That's it. We fly. If it comes in line with consensus, so 0.1 or 0 here, it's probably a nothing burger, and we'll have to like TBD. But if it's hot, right? If spending is high, I would expect a serious stumper, right? Which, would set up for that maybe next week dip buy. But just be really cautious here. This is, I can't tell you how important this day is going to be. So anyways, that said, what is the, so King of Wands, then we have the Hermit. This looks like Turnaround Tuesday. King of Cups, then a Moon, and then a 4. So we'll see, right? So theme card, let's read what she says. So the theme card is the exact same setup we had last week. Okay. Lots of traps and deception. So those liquidity grabs might be the things that you really want to be looking for to actually pick your spots and take your stands, right? Also repeat last week. So Knight, Swords, 5, appear to be stuck in the same cycle, which means more of the same. So dangerous, tread lightly, right? Monday, King of Wands. This is today. We closed the week with 2 of Wands, so we could see projection of the energy into a larger series of impulses. Good news is tends to bring rallies. So a good chance of closing green on the day. I think we're about there. Yeah, still looking decent. But we need to be really cautious here of a lower high, and we'll go into the charts here shortly. I think more day traders environment than signal the longer short. If you play, try and keep it short. Yeah, short time, a good time, not a long time. Tuesday's the Hermit. Been a while since we've seen this guy show up. Great, because he's not like he tells us to stay away in order to reflect and avoid trouble. So it could be green Monday, turnaround Tuesday, possibly. Usually positive, but okay, never mind. Usually positive, but only because he's setting up for a bull trap. All right, maybe basically this kind of calling turnaround on Wednesday. We'll see. Only because he's setting up for a bull trap. So the advice is not to chase and wait a day or two for a better setup. Interesting. Wednesday is the King of Cups. You know the drill. I don't know the drill, Miss Cleo. Tell me what we could see similar energy on a larger scale. Similar to what? This card arrives during difficult times, reminding us not to lose our cool and to keep our emotion in check. Okay, so we're overflowing on something. Unfortunately, it brings volatility with them and is usually quite negative. Okay, so she's saying Wednesday. There's no real signal to buy dips, but I think Monday, Tuesday may set up a good mean reversion trade that gives us a chance to sell. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday up, then Miss Cleo thinks down Wednesday, right back to where we started. Thursday is the moon. This is Micron report, and this is the first of our economic data points. So interesting to see this card here. Moon has two forms. She clearly has no idea when she says something like this. It reveals illusions and lets the animal spirits take over. So yeah, this is Micron all day. This often occurs during a topping process, not directly after a day of weakness. Or we rocket up to the moon, and this is obvious, and this is an obvious play that doesn't require a lot of explanation. So what I say is, if it's Micron, if we go up, you want to look probably Western Digital. No, Western Digital's already would have happened, but it might be the not so obvious plays like an NVIDIA or whatever other AI, maybe even a Broadcom, that bounces off of this, right? If Wednesday's tough one, then both versions of this card offer hope for bulls. Treat it as a trend card and don't fade it. Oh, she's saying long. Okay, she's just saying straight long. Interesting, Miss Cleo. Wednesday is the Four of Cups. We've seen this card quite a bit recently. It brings apathy over price action, doesn't meet expectations. So okay, not a lot of continuation here. Had this card last Thursday and led to quite the slide. Okay, we could see something similar Friday, especially since crypto is setting up similar repeat. This doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Oddly enough, this has one more up days than down days. She's talking about the historical of this. It usually moves in the opposite direction of the prior day. Okay, so it's a mean reversion play. Not a lot of follow through. There's a side that thinks we're winning, but today they'll be disappointed. This fits our weekly trap theme. Like I said, don't fall in love with any positions this week. Fair enough, right? Recap from Miss Cleo. Reversals on Monday into pivot Tuesday, continuation Wednesday through Friday. We'll see. Not exactly how I read it, Miss Cleo, but fair enough. It is what it is. Otherwise, looking decent. Okay, so that's it for Miss Cleo. Let's bail out of this guy, and we can kind of get into some of these charts for you guys. So what I'm going to do is, the first look I always take is of the three major indices, and I'm going to take them on a 30-minute chart. I do these orange boxes here. This is an average week's range. And just so you know, I didn't touch this. This is last week. How important are these average week's ranges? So from the Monday low here, and I put this Monday, what's the maximum that you're going to be looking at from an upside on SPY, which is around 550, right? This actually hit in the pre-market, and we instantly sold off. But when you see this happen, just know, hey, look, the odds of a continuation are pretty low, right? And all we're doing now is that we've actually come through this is a gap fib. This is filled. Actually, we can move this over here. Ooh, that session gap also filled. So right now, all we're really doing is we're holding this prior breakout. So here's the prior breakout. If SPY does not get below 530, 544, call it, I don't see a whole lot of downside. But if she doesn't get over 547, she might just be stuck. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to put this right here. Average week's range to the upside. So we're going to 553, spot 27. If this is the high of the week and we do fail, so this brings us right to the second breakout support. And average week's range to the downside is actually going to be about 536.90. Call it 537 for good measure and change. So this is the downside possible. If you see us below here, you need to be thinking long. at 538, 537, that's the maximum downside, right? It's going to line up at that time. It's going to line up with the 20-day simple moving average, which is going to be somewhere around here. It's just what it's going to be. If we do have this continuation, that's going to be because we held today's low and we held this prior break of structure, and that continuation brings us to 553 on an average weekly range. So use that for what it is. Make sure you mark it. If you're like spread trader or condor trader, what you basically do is just make that the edges of your wings. Same thing on Qs. So this was Monday low. Look, how important is this, right? It's incredibly important. It's very rare that we actually extend beyond an average week's range, right? Different setup on the Qs than SPY, right? Totally different. This was that prior break of structure. This one does not look good. I'll just say that. So right now on the Qs, downside average week's range would actually bring us right into this kind of level here, 468 and change. And we would probably fill what looks like a pretty heavy volume shelf in here, right there. So what I'm going to do is right now, this is that prior breakout. I think you could cleanly say that this might get to that 475, but if she doesn't break below this 475, I wouldn't continue to press that downside bet. Quite frankly, personally, I think this might be a chopped week, but 475 is your primary target to the downside, maybe a little bit higher. And then 475, 45. And then it wouldn't be until after that break that you get this little pop-up fail. And then you can have a big flush day, which might not happen until way back when, right? If this is, here's the thing. If this is the low of the week for Qs, an average week's range just brings us right back to where we broke down last week to the upside, right back to 485, 75. And then we see where she goes, and that would make a lot of sense. So it's something like this, a little bit more, right? You can't really trade this until you're over, let's say Friday's low and this kind of pivot. So we have a pretty big pivot, 478 and change. So if we're over, let's call it this shelf, 478.50, then I think, yeah, okay, you can actually have some continuation, but that would look like a bounce, pull back, hold somewhere around 478 and change, and then you could see that back half move, which is probably not going to come right now. So trading for that right now is not ideal. I'll just say that. Diamonds. So we're going to go other indices. So diamonds actually were the most extended before, huge sell-off. Then they were the best value, and we're getting this massive continuation pop to the upside. I'm not going to give you really like a whole lot of stuff, but it's going to be 400, right? So back to 400. Does this end up being like a big giant W? Kind of is what it looks like to me. I don't know, like whatever that is. But it's early for that type of stuff. But as long as this is holding, 390, this looks solid to the upside. That's going to be your Honeywell, Caterpillar, those kind of things, FedEx, transports, all that stuff. In terms of IWM, though, it's been trading underneath like a very smaller range, much smaller than average range. So we didn't actually get all the way to a full average week's range on IWM. This is we'll call it the redheaded stepchild of the indices. So you can only really grab this on liquidity grabs, if that makes sense. And that would look like it wants to break out, but it doesn't. And then it just slightly makes a new high, or it even breaches this low. And that's your spot to go long. But on IWM, an average week's range would, and this is where if we do get broadening out, would actually bring you to this 205 and change level right in here, 205.60. We're not going over that right now. I just don't see that happening, but it's a nice bottoming formation. I'm selling puts on this guy. I think any dips and calls, but I think the dips, if you get them, you could get like this choppy, and that looks good. But you don't want to trade IWM when she looks great. You want to take this one as liquidity grabs, right? Like when you get a big dip that seems a bit overdone, big dip, then instant like midday rip, or you get this big, early morning flush that gets instantly bought up, and then you go for like a 48-hour trade, maybe, right? Something like that. because she's not been holding, right? So she hasn't been holding any kind of breakouts. It's just this massive consolidation right now. So even on a daily time frame, it looks good, but look, we're still very much in this range. Is this a W? You know, who knows, right? I don't know if it's more of a W, but it's one of these things. So I'm bullish here, to be fair, but I'm not like over my season. Oh, this is going to break out right now. Hopefully that makes sense. I think it's got a little bit more work to do to base out. What was the other ones? We talked about oil. So I think this dollar is going to be probably the biggest thing right now. So dollar right into this 106 area, that was massive overhead resistance. I think she pulls back a little bit. This would be good for the gold trades and silver, honestly. And I think that continues to go down. So gold actually looks pretty good to me here. Again, this is like definition of those liquidity grabs. Big up, doesn't hold, big pull back. That's the liquidity grab to me, right? Just under its 20, looks like it's reclaiming its 20. I actually like gold again here. So we'll see if this can hold and gets over 217, and really it's 50-day. This is, an average move, weekly move would bring this to about 220, which would actually kind of eclipse this prior like topping formation. We have higher lows, but we also have lower highs. It's consolidation. So I don't think it's a breakout just yet, but it's definitely one to watch. And if that dollar continues to fall, it's even better. All right. Yeah, DIA. Diamonds looks good for sure. All right, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and we'll take a look at some of these charts really quick. I want to hit a couple. I know I'm gonna get to your requests, but I don't know that you're always watching the right thing. So let's do a couple, right? So Target, big catalyst today. Earnings are through, dividends paid. The next earnings report is not until August, right? So on a daily look, this actually looks pretty good. We're right into a pretty major level though. So what I'll say is right here, right around 150, right? If you get a daily open above that level, above today's high, this is probably going to scream pretty quickly to like $5-6, maybe a little bit more. And there could be some serious continuation, right? So just keep this one on watch. It's a big deal. I think it's more of a swing trader than a day trader. Buy this one on red days also, right? So what would that look like? A red day for right now would actually look like a bit of a pullback and maybe holding this prior break level right over here. So 148 and change, it would look a little something like this, like that, but over its 20 for sure. So we'll see. Usually a stock reclaims its 20-day. It usually goes pretty quickly right to its 50, which is sitting at 156 and change. But real target's more like 170 on something like this. AMD. So I did talk about AMD. I looked at this 153 level in our server. We talked about it before. 154, 153 is right here. This was a prior fair value gap. And really just kind of like retesting this area right in here. So I think this is kind of done. And again, with those new laptops coming out, she's really trying to make a go for this. I think you have to put this on watch. Here's the tops right now. So this session gap, I'm going to call this filled. This 164 is the prior way back all-time high that goes to 2021. So she's sitting right at this pivot right now. Let me just do one more. So here's your topping formation. What I'm going to do, I'm going to grab these lows and say this is your consolidation. What is that? No idea what that is. So you have a bit of a reversal setup. This 2-1-2 is what we call, so 2 directional up inside day, looking like a 2 up on the day out of this continuation. This one is really, really interesting. So here over 164, 164.50, I think she's ready to roll. And you're looking for up in here, this 175s type level. So she's not out of the weeds, but you need to have this on watch for sure. If you get this breakout out of this consolidation zone, this could get really squeezy really quick, right? 167 if you want to play it safe. But right now, as you look at this, it's just sitting on it, sitting on the 20-day. That's this white kind of simple moving average over its 50-day, holding its 50-day. This is, again, if you look for liquidity grabs, I would just wait on something like this to actually give you the clean breakout, because it might not be today. And if it fails, then it goes to here, right? So a fail would actually take you to about this 157 level. Not a lot of downside, I will say, to me on this one. And that would be like pick up, definite liquidity grabs, but also breakout watch for something like that. All right. And then Tesla. So Tesla, guys, Robotaxi Day is August 8th. I think that's a massive that's a big deal for Tesla. If you didn't know, they're going to start talking about it right now. This is what I was talking about last week. Tesla, not the best week. So I don't want to really go for things that had great weeks last week, but here's where we are on Tesla. And today's the first day. We're looking like, so we had breakout, pullback, retest right here. It's probably not the cleanest lines. Let me just drop this in of this kind of, let's do this. Let's make that a little bit cleaner. So I'm grabbing this top and this top. If you grab this one, you're actually holding here, but it's a pretty big deal level right at here, 189, 188 ish. It's had a lot of overhead resistance right over here. Let's pull this down a little bit. So here. If she can get through that, it's going to look really good. And I think that this is probably, look at this, right? So in here, this is probably setting up for a larger swing through a couple months. So I think Tesla's good on any dip buys, specifically ahead of that like Robotaxi event. There's going to be a lot of stuff. They're gonna drop, what do they call it? The Cybercab. It's a new car. So there's going to be a new car on Cybercab called the Cybercab. It's going to be like a smaller version, I believe, but it's going to be a preview of like the next model of Tesla. So interesting for sure. It's going to be very much about FSD and the whole story there. I'll just tell you, it's really, you got to have a far out vision, but if you understand what FSD can do for Tesla, you can't really be bearish on this thing. They'll probably make more money on that than they will selling cars. That's just me. All right. So first one for the request. So Airbnb, Richard, ABNB. Oh, so I think you're holding this. This is a choppy. Weekly's good. Holding this level here. It looks decent, but it's same thing. It's had a lot of struggle. So July 31st, this might not be ready just yet. This is one where like the dips will probably be the buying opportunities this week if it doesn't break out. But you have just crystal clear overhead resistance right now at 150. That's going to be like your massive psychological level. What you need to have, you have a clean open and close daily over this 150 level. That's this right here, your two pivots, and that prior, 150, big time, big time sketchy area. So massive overhead resistance. If you do get that, well, let's see, where's she gonna go? I can look at the charts and see real quick, but I'll just say right now, she's probably gonna go 153, and just even without a fib, that's gonna be right in here. So you got like, you need a lot of time on this guy because this is not going like right now. And if this goes, it's going to be probably like careful, right? Or your equity. So you're here, you're going to go straight into here. Then you'll probably bounce a little bit here. Max 157. So what you're probably looking at is this volume gap right in here. So 155 right here would be that first target. And that's on the day where she opens over 150. So set that alert. The day that she opens over 150 and she starts heading up early trade, then 155 is where you see. That's a quick day trade for sure. Because I don't know if she's going to hold on that one. Amazon. Prime Day's coming. New all-time highs here. I think this is good. Looks like I charted this a little bit here. So first thing, we get this pop up, right? This is a bit of a liquidity grab, but the other way. And so now she didn't hold that 188. So what you need to see now is you need to see this reclaim up over 188. And I think if she can, then that's probably going to look good. But until then, what you need to see is this volume shelf right here. So this is this little blip right here. Looks good, but this is where that last support or last resistance was. This needs to act like support. It looks like it is, so that's coming in a little bit more than previously thought. So up here, and then you want to see that open over 188. That's going to be your big deal. And then 193 is going to be like max extension for this week. But I do like Amazon. So again, Amazon, it had a decent week though last week. This big pop. Maybe she comes in and she stabilizes a little bit. Nike, Pan, Broadcom. Oh, you're like triple dip. Nike. So I'm gonna preface Nike where chart's not gonna matter at all. So because we have earnings, I think what we talked about right now is really if you have this level on Nike right here, this has been the trouble spot breakdown. And breakout level on Nike, just about right in this range, right? So it's going to be $98, pop, fail, resistance, push through, support, fail, right? But where's the upside? You're looking here, it's like 108 max squeeze upside. Right there. You're live on edge, you're in the service, so we'll take a look at that when it comes to earnings, see what the implied move is versus historicals also. But 98, you're getting the squeezy spot ahead of earnings. If you want to trade that, that's kind of what you're looking for. Right now, you're going to be looking at the 200-day simple moving average. That's about $100 for your initial stopping point, right? Or like major target. I don't think she extends over that in the near term, at least not ahead of earnings. Broadcom though, so Broadcom's selling off right now. So right now, this was a big level that she lost this morning, right here. So right now, this one, I think we flagged this in the server as a possible, overheated this day. And I took a very small piece of this move and just like, this thing has not looked back. I'm like, holy crap. So at this point, what we're looking at is we're kind of looking at a retracement of this move here, right? So here to here, I got 1589 as the next level. But this will probably start to be choppy, right? So, not swingy like this, something like that, right? Cause this is still probably going to be coming up. If that makes sense. So these are more day trades. If you can do that, this will probably come up. This will probably there, but this is like choppy downside. And then you're waiting for one more time, like a liquidity grab, around like that 15, just over 1500, call like 1525 type level. Yeah. And that's going to be it for Broadcom for sure. At least in the near term. Does it mean it goes up from there? No, I'm not going to say that. I think it could just stop going down. Palo Alto looked decent in early trades, but again, trouble spot. 325 is massive trouble spot, right? So it's again, good week. I think she bases. I don't know that this is quite ready. So here's this last breakdown on earnings. Just got to take this move. You're at the 50% mark here. Max upside 330 to 335. And that's going to put you right over here, right? 330, give or take 330 to 335. But not much more from there. So here you got to hold right now. You got to hold this 315-ish area. So like snipes are going to be 311. If you see that, it might happen in the pre or post market, and then probably base out from there. Because if she can't go higher, what's true She needs to come back down a little bit to collect more buyers. And so what that would look like is this. So she couldn't go higher. She needs to come back down. She needs to collect more buyers to get that momentum, that Momo to the upside. Let's see. Affirm. AFRM. So the chart, so this is some squeezy shenanigans. I'm not a big Affirm trader. I think you have to have, so like if PCE, this is a tough one for me, like from a fundamental, like the chart looks squeezy. It's a squeezy chart, right? So what's true, we'll just go from a chart perspective. Here's where you have to get over 3450, right? And I say 3450. What could happen is it could get over 3450 and even extend it to like 3457 and then hold it. And then if it puts in a lower high here, you got to get out, right? Because she's coming back down and she's going to do this basing thing one more time right over here. And then she might be ready, right? So this is, I think you're looking at 3450 upside right now, and then it could be time to go. But that's what this chart looks like to me. So it's still like consolidation. I have to use a channel on something like this. And so, yeah, so even on a channel, I'm seeing it too. Like this is the top of that channel, that down channel. So it could get squeezy over this level and then poof, but you got to take profits quickly, because usually what we want to see on something like this is we want to see a clean breakthrough and then come back down, because the first one's not usually a long, not the real long, and then a higher low and bounce up off the top of that channel. That's your long right here. It's not this first breakout typically, although a firm's super squeezy. It's you get this and you get a couple days of this pullback here, and then you hit some kind of level of support, you lock in that lower high, and then you're off. Does that make sense? Then you're off. So that's where we are on a firm. Do I have confluence from this breakout? Yeah, you have a 618, 65 retrace confluence there. It's just, I think it's done going down. I just don't know if it's ready to go up. But if it does break this past low, 28.35, which is seemingly far away, that's, you got to get out of the way. Goldman upgrade. Yeah, monthly. I mean, I see it on the weekly pretty clear, right? So, but I think this is one where like it's going to take a while to play out. So just like we kind of charted out, I think it takes a while to play out. So this is more either crazy leaps or equity play, one of the two. Levshin also says he's never sold a single share since. Yeah, I believe that. Kenny, CRM. I like CRM. I liked it last week, and then she hit like another one of those trouble spots and didn't follow through. So here, let's take a look. So here's the daily on CRM. Get off of that tool. We're sitting at, so from this breakdown point on earnings, right? We're sitting at the 50%. Right now, it's holding this 238. I think, again, if you get this little, like the next higher low, which could be as early as today, and if it holds this 238 type level right in here, I think you could take this. I like this for equity. I just don't know how big the upside is, right? 270 is maximum. You got this 265 upside here, and that's going to line up probably with these guys here, sitting here. So 260 is going to be kind of like your trouble spot target right there, where she'll stall again. But otherwise, this could be like that and then stop. Does that make sense? These are a little bit longer setups. I'll just say, I don't know that happens this week or right now, but these are those kind of what I say, like liquidity grabs, those dips that you're looking for for sure. FSD. Oh yeah, FSD FSD is like all margins. You might see Tesla go from like, I don't know whatever their margins are, to like you might see Tesla double their margins in the next few years just on FSD alone. And I don't think that's in the market at all. Yeah. So MU, let's take a look at this for sure. I think this is, like I said, probably going to be one of the most important stocks of the market this week. That's stupid. It's going to be the most important stock of the market this week. That's all I can tell you, right? And you know, where we are on Micron is this, right? So it's holding a super critical level. The last breakout was here, right? Right on this level. And this is what I mean, like liquidity grab in terms of, you can see it on the chart, is right here. You have this prior breakdown here at 139, and then in the morning you get this just wick that barely shows up 135, and it's launch pad, boom, boom. Every time you get those type of dips on Micron, it's just been a launch pad. So even this morning, it's just a wick. These are very strong signals, right? So there are buyers. When you see this kind of stuff on your candles, like there are buyers here. Doesn't mean it's gonna fly, but it means something's like they're buying like the big red candles whenever they see them, and they're doing it pretty quickly. So I think, you know, here's the 20-day on Micron. I think that continues to hold. We can just see this like clean little channel here. So, you know, clearly extended in that channel, but it's just going to be, this is that last wick. Here's this next one. It might be even a little bit lower, like 137.50, maybe dip buy, but yeah, I wouldn't be short Micron at all on this. It's hard to long though, I'll say that. 130 is epic downside if that happens this week, but you're not getting there unless you get out of this kind of channel. So what I'd say is connect these lows, these most recent lows. We can do it a little bit cleaner for you here. But pre-earnings, I don't know that it really like goes, if that makes sense, ahead of it, because it's had such a run. What I think that we would see is a little bit of profit taking ahead of the actual report on Wednesday night. So it would be, yeah, these like sub 135, any type of that liquidity grab. I think that's what you look for on Micron. But I would stay long personally. If you're not long, that's where I would be looking to be getting long on those like morning red flushes for sure. Or just like little bit every day, you know, little bit, and then not full position before earnings, because if she dips on earnings, because it's had a heavy run, then you want to be able to add in later. But I don't think that story is over at all. Western Digital is super similar. So right inside that 50 and 20 day moving average, not going up just yet, but I will reload this as a pairs trade to Micron personally. I like this one a little bit better. So this is prior downtrend here, definitely broken out. And any dips, I think this could take it to like 88 plus, maybe 90 on a Micron headline from earnings. Same business. Nvidia, nobody asked about Nvidia. So this was the last breakout, 119, 115. I think that's it, right? So you have 20 day. So you're going to get this retest here. A liquidity grab would bring you to like 109, give or take. If for whatever reason you see it 96s, 97s, you buy it. Sorry. But yeah, I like that one. SMCI is interesting. So it's the last one here, SMCI. So I took SMCI short today. So this is one that's rotation into the Qs, but here's why. So remember when I was talking about, look, the first breakout of these kind of consolidations they're not the ones to really like lean into. They're definitely not, right? And so here's the deal. Micron, high highs, lower highs. This one starts to break structure. what we needed to see on super micro, sorry if I misspoke earlier, on super micros, we needed to see this trend line actually hold, and you didn't, right? So it was this morning that I took it short, and that's definitively why. This is the trend line that she broke right over here. Once you get this first breakout, it's not always the one to like, it's just not, right? What we want to see for something to be sustainable is you want to see it come back and you want to see it hold that. And it needed to be if it was a long this morning, it was like, okay, good, right? And then even then you want to see it holding this 900 level, right? So at that point, sure. Right now, trade is over because you're right into this 20 and 50-day simple moving average that are tight as tight can be. And so, what's tough about trading is anything that gets like this, I think it's got more downside, but it's probably going to get bought right back up, which puts it somewhere around like 790, something like that. This level right in here. So this is kind of like where they're clearly buying dips over here. And so when you get these simple moving averages that are this tight, you get this type of choppy trendless trade for a while, i.e. Amazon, right, is in that situation. You get choppy trendless trade until you don't, and it's just a really quick kind of breakout. You could have taken it, I don't know how many days, but it wasn't like, you would have gotten very frustrated in this kind of thing. So it's finally, Amazon finally out over this level. Now she can kind of come back, but you still have these SMAs that are really tight. So if you wanted to do something on Amazon, I think, she can come back and she can retest these type of levels. It could come all the way back to 184. And then if you lock in a higher low, I think that's probably better to take, right? Let me just do something really quick. So I'm just looking at these two tops here. Yeah, had I had this chart, I would have probably shorted it too, but I didn't. So I think, you can come in, basically not enough buyers to continue to push it forward. What has to happen, it has to come down to collect more buyers so that more people can get on the right side of this ship, and then it can take another shot. So that's all that I'm seeing for this week, is a lot of this kind of like breakout stuff. And then this will be the last one, and we'll call it. But Dell is going to be very similar. So Dell, not ready right now, right? So why not ready? So Dell, top, we have a very clean consolidation here. We're now retesting. We got this retesting that 136.7-ish level right here, this top. I think it's very similar where, look, it's a basing formation. This is where either you're building into equity on lows or you're waiting for this dip to happen. And so the thing with Dell right now is that you can get this, and even if it pops, it's not going to be sustained rally right now. It's just not, right? I think this could be a pair trade with Micron, but I think she goes to 155 and then you got to stop, right? Because what happens when you get here is that you could even get a little bit of a breakout, which would be amazing, right? But this is, like we just said, this is not the trade to take on the breakout. You want to see it come back down, retest, and then you go for a big one, right? And you honestly, in this instance, it's probably new all-time highs. But does it mean that it's done going down, or is it ready to go up right now? If you're an options trader, that's more important than knowing where the levels are necessarily. But we're coming into that volume shelf right here. This is that big kind of area, 50-day simple moving average, and this entire shelf that people are just building, right? Myself included. Like, I sold up here, but I'm happy to buy in this area for sure, because I'm not thinking about selling my Dell anytime soon. I'll just say that, right? But I think, do you think it's going to break out and like explode to the upside? Look, if it did, I would want to sell it again, because that's just not healthy, right? It's been not loved for so long that all of a sudden this renewed interest in Dell, it's like, holy crap, it can get so squeezy. So it needs to like get a good, what's it called? A good base. And that's really healthy for the stock in the much longer term. And so I love that. If it gets too squeezy, I got to trim it, right? Because it's not healthy when you have that kind of crazy rally, right? You guys are crazy. I will say, so someone's asking spot. I'm not in a spot. It's not I know it's up a lot this year. I don't know the catalyst. Yeah, same thing, basing. I don't know this ready. You need more time. Bitcoin, Austin, it's not it's not the time for Bitcoin. Summer is not the time for Bitcoin to break out, guys. Like you probably know that. But winter is the rally time. Usually like the back half of the year, Q4. It's just going to be like this. If Trump wins, crypto is going to go ballistic. If he doesn't, it'll probably still do good, but like the heavy dips are probably no. MSTR is not the same as Bitcoin. I hate that. But not it's just I think that's so dumb. Why would I buy MSTR when I could buy Bitcoin? That's financial engineering. Possibly, but I'm not into that, right? Because I do own Bitcoin outright. But this is setting up to me right now. This was it's just a basic kind of like what we'll call like grab, right? So if it does come down, great. It's gonna be either it holds the 200-day or you get this overnight flusher that's like 50K. And if you see Bitcoin at 50K randomly during some summer night, you need to buy that. But otherwise, this actually looks like it's pretty much done for right now, to be fair. 200-day simple average, that's at, it's going to fill a fair value. Bitcoin is like extremely technical. See me right here. So anywhere around here, these are on crypto. You have to pay attention to these wicks. You have to. If you don't, you're not doing it right. That's just under 60K liquidity grab. Just under 60K liquidity grab. So, anyways, all are under buy price. Currently, all BTC. I don't know what buy price is. I think you're talking about spot to NAV. So spot to NAV for sure. So what their spot trading is to NAV. I like Ethereum better than Bitcoin, just as an aside. This is going to have way higher beta for that next back half run. I think that the ETF would be ETHE if you see it under $30. Yeah, snag it. But Beto is the only one. So spot to NAV, you have to go on like Grayscale. You have to go and you go into their actual site. And then I'm going to call it after this. You guys are good. You go to the site. I just know this one. So we'll go ETHE. And then you go into performance, and they'll have two lines. So they'll have NAV, which is net asset value, and spot price where it's trading. So sometimes when there's a big disconnect where the spot price is like the NAV is way up here and the spot price is trading way down here, this big discrepancy, those are buy spots. I don't have that right now on ETHE. You did have it a little bit in those 20s. So NAV and spot are pretty much equivalent. So I don't think it's a buy. It's not a sell, if that makes sense. But that's how you find that stuff out. All right, guys. That's it for me for now. I'm going to call it there. I appreciate all you guys. I will see you out there, and we are on to the next one. Adios.